back to Soma Psyche. Today we're going to do a demonstration for you guys that we promised to do in previous videos. This is the fourth video in a series that we've been doing on the body and time, which is a really fun conversation.
Yeah, super fun conversation.
And so this demonstration, we will lovingly title it How to Time Travel with the Body. But more specifically, this is an adaptation of the microphenomenological interview, which is a big fancy phrase for a research technique that really allows you to deepen into and help somebody unfold the intricate layers of a specific experience, a very specific moment in time. And we've been kind of playing around with this as a group and experimenting with it together. And so we want to do a demonstration to kind of show how we pick a specific moment that we're curious about in true SIP fashion, be guided by your curiosity. And I'm going to do an abbreviated version of the interview. And what you'll sense is that an interview like this could go on infinitely. Because there's so many layers of experience to move into.
You're always sensing.
That's right. There's always more to our experience that we could discover. In particular, the reason why I like this kind of interview is that as we're looping through material with our clients, a lot of what we run into as far as a barrier is that most of our experience is sub or unconscious. So this particular technique is a way of deepening into the experience to bring up that sub and unconscious material so that we can actually be with it in a conscious way and let it inform us of the truth of our experience about something. And we could talk a long time about why that is so relevant, and I think a lot of that is obvious, but we are going to do an interview about a specific moment for you, and what we're going to show is what we call an evocation. So very similar to EMDR, when we're doing microphenomenology, we have to have a specific moment in time that we're looking at. And the reason for that is because this is about the actual lived experience of a specific moment. And that helps us stay with the state of things rather than moving into the story. And you're going to see how that works in just a second. And we can do this about a specific moment in time that we've already experienced in the past. It's always about something that's happened in the past. But in therapy, it might be something that has happened outside of therapy, and then we're going to investigate it together in therapy. Or it can be something that we actually create in that therapeutic session and then deepen into and explore together. And it's that version that we're going to show here. So you have kind of a general idea of what you want to explore, something that you're personally curious about.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is evoke that in you and have you be with that for a moment. And that will actually be the moment in time that we then explore. So the viewers can actually watch how does an evocation work, and they will have witnessed what that moment was for you. And so it'll give some wider context to what we're doing. So can you just kind of give us like 2 sentences of what you want to focus on, because we'll go deeper in it together.
Yeah, the thing that when you asked the question was like, I was talking to another clinician about like, I just woke up with this neck tension, and my immediate way of writing a story about that was to say that I worked specifically very somatically with several clients yesterday in very like intense reprocessing sessions, and then woke up with just like tightness of the neck. So I have the story, but that doesn't release the sensation.
That's right.
So I'm curious about that.
Okay, all right. So we're going to have a little experience together if you're comfortable with that. And then after we have that experience, we'll shift into interviewing you about that experience.
Cool.
Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, do you feel comfortable to work with your eyes closed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, more than good.
Yes. So go ahead and close your eyes and just kind of sink into your body for a moment, becoming aware of the general state of your body. I see that already you're moving your neck around, noticing what's there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you're ready, I'll invite you to bring your attention specifically to your neck and to the areas right around your neck. Sinking into the sensation that is held there. Noticing the qualities of the sensation. noticing if any story begins to emerge around that sensation. Noticing if there's any movement or desire that your body has to respond to holding focus on that sensation in your neck. If you would like to make any movement or response to that, you can do that now. Reattuning one more time into that sensation, being with whatever is there. And then finding a way that you would like to release that focus and come back to this present moment. And when you feel ready, you can open your eyes. Feel okay?
Yeah. I'm curious what questions you have because I have like a lot of sensation.
So what we're going to do is start with re-evoking what that was like for you. So what I would like you to do, just in brief to begin, is to describe the timeline of that experience. So we'll deepen into specific elements of it. But first we'll start with how did that experience start for you? And then you can kind of give me the bullet points as it unfolded. And then deciding where do you feel like that experience ended?
Yeah, it's actually like a weird, it traverses a lot of time, but in the specific activation, my brain went to like a moment yesterday, so 3 sessions. First session, like lots of hunched, like client doing like somatic tracking, but like on the floor. And I'm on a couch, like hunched over, creating just like a safe space. But then like there's this moment where that session ends, and when you're telling me to focus in on the sensations, like my brain body just skips the middle session, because the middle session was just like talking about, it was just kind of like fine-tuning kind of maintenance strategies. And then the second session was like very re-evoking of that same posture, where I was like really in the space and speaking like quietly and softly to the person. And then I think like the end of that experience was at the end of that session, where there was like this big release and this like, we both like took a deep breath together and like, yeah. And like we had shared a moment where I was like, that feels right. Yeah. And even as I'm saying that, like thinking of the breath at the end of both sessions, like it was like so short, and compared to like both 90-minute sessions and both like 80 minutes of holding and then one release at the end.
So when I invited you to begin to tune into the sensations in your neck, it sounds like immediately your system responded by taking you back to your experiences yesterday. And the way that unfolded for you is that you thought of the sessions and went into an awareness of the posture that you were holding, this hunched posture. And you observed that the timeline unfolding in your memory sort of skipped the middle session, right?
Yeah.
And so you noticed that hunched forward focused posture in the first session, the skip of the middle session, and then back to that hunched posture in the second session. Yeah. And you connect that posture with this awareness of being really in the space with your clients. Yeah. And you notice that for both of those sessions, there was this sense of, for 80 minutes, you were holding that posture of tension, of leaning forward, of being really in the space. And then at the end, there was this release with a short breath of relief. Yeah. And you equated that moment of release and relief with the statement of, that feels right. Yeah. Yeah. So would you add or change anything about that unfolding?
Not about, I don't know if this is within line, but I wouldn't change anything about the unfolding there. Like, part of my system does want to add that, like, I have a sense of connectedness to those, but then a sense of annoyance at, like, re-evoking it in the present. Like, why does, like, it's almost annoying that I'm still holding that posture.
Okay. So what you're adding to that unfolding is this present moment awareness of, in the moment, you felt very connected. And now you feel a sensation of annoyance that it's still there.
Yeah.
Okay. So did that sensation of connectedness versus annoyance, did that emerge just now, or did it emerge when we were in that experience together?
I think it very much emerged in the experience, and it shifted from neck into the shoulders. Like, when you asked, like, what movement, it had nothing to do with my neck, and actually my neck feels like totally fine.
Okay.
But it's all about, like, this posture.
Yeah. This posture is
being forward, hunched in, activation through, like, the front chest area, but then, like, right by my shoulder blades, which is like when I was interacting with the client on the ground, and then in the interaction with the client across from me, that posture there, and that felt okay. But then you asked, okay being like resonant, but then you asked, what movement do I want to take or feel like I can take? It was like, I want this, like, back.
Yeah. So in the session, that hunched forward posture produced a sensation of connectedness with your clients, right? But now, when we re-evoke it, when you visit that sensation again, what emerges is a sensation of annoyance and a desire to roll your shoulders back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm curious, would you want to deepen into any particular part of this unfolding for you? Does anything stand out to you? I have some things I feel curious about, but I'm going to check with you and see, what do you feel drawn to about that arc of experience that you just had?
Well, I think my present experience, there's like this interesting, like, tension around my clients both got the breath and I shared it with them, but then, like, the present annoyance is that I don't have that, like my body doesn't feel like that, like, and even doing that, just like, oh, feels good in the shoulders to just, like, but my, like, frustration today with that tightness in the shoulders and the neck is like, well, yeah, it's great, like, my clients got it, but then I walked away from yesterday, like, not having it, and, like, wanting it.
So what you're becoming aware of is gratitude that your clients felt that connectedness that led to that relief and that release in their body, and a sense of frustration that, at least in this moment, you don't have that same sensation of relief.
Yeah, which feels like a totally different story than I told myself this morning when I woke up, which was like, that was a bad night's sleep. Like, it was rough. Must have been tossing and turning or something. Yeah.
Okay. So, do you feel like you want to deepen into that feeling of frustration around that phrase, they got it and I didn't? Or is there another piece that feels like more of a draw for you?
Yeah, I think the phrase that shifted after like saying annoyance, it feels like it shifted to like just a genuine like desire, like I want it. Like, I just I want that breath too.
I want that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's deepen into that for a second. So if you'd like to close your eyes, if that feels helpful, you can.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of have this general outline, this timeline of how this experience unfolded for you. And then we're going to take that particular moment that you experienced of, I want what they have. I want to experience what they experienced. How did that desire emerge for you? How did you sense that coming into your awareness?
It sounds so funny, but like there was a moment where my stomach grumbled, and like it feels like that desire mimics like hunger, like a desire for a satiation of like I'm not hungry anymore, like I'm not seeking anymore.
Yeah. How do you sense that desire that mimics hunger?
It's almost like my gut, like like leading with the gut. So it's like, which actually like pulls back my shoulders and like pushes out my stomach. Just imagine being pulled to like the Jimmy John's down the street, like by my gut, just like wanting that.
So as you sense that feeling of desire that mimics hunger, wanting to be satiated, and how it produces this action of your gut leading, which naturally pulls your shoulders back, what happens next?
Oh, even as you said that, like I noticed my voice was like, like this sort of affirmation, but like a soft, like when a resonant note lingers.
So as you tune into that affirmation, the resonant note that lingers, how does your body respond to that?
It's an interesting, like my gut goes back in and my shoulders sort of drop, and they're like in that middle point between like where I was and pulled back like I wanted to be, just sort of in this like just resting right in the middle, but my gut's not like pulling anymore.
Does that have a particular quality to it? Does it feel positive, negative, neutral? How do you sense that?
Like settling.
Settling,
Which I think positive.
yeah. How do you sense that settling?
It's like the diaphragm, the diaphragm between my gut and my heart, just kind of like holding just enough space, but not like too much.
Holding just enough space, but not too much. For what?
Because like when I want to put my shoulders back, I want to like breathe in, which like creates the tension here, like trying to get a lot of breath. But then that moment where it's just like right here is like a just enough breath.
Just enough breath.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we sink into that awareness of when I have this middle posture of not shoulders forward or gut forward, but resting in the middle, And emerges that sensation of just enough room, but not too much for breath. As you hold focus there, how do you sense that more deeply?
I mean, my awareness went right to like my eyes. Like they softened. I felt like I was really focused for a second. And then, you just like release your eyes. You're not like really scanning. Notice my hands aren't as tightly interwoven. They're just like restingly interwoven. My voice is like on the edge of sleep, almost.
Okay. So that feels like a gentle and pleasant place to maybe pause. But before we pull out of that, I want you to just be with all of that you just described. This settling sensation that feels positive. Your eyes softening with a sensation of release. Your hands interwoven in a restful way. Your voice on the edge of sleeping. Just see, is there anything else that you want to be aware of in all of that?
No, I think it feels like I could drift into that for a long time. Like I could just like, it's almost like when you're like floating on water. You're just like, just chilling.
Yeah.
Knowing that the water's not gonna like bounce.
So being with all of that produces this sensation of floating on water, being held by the water.
Yeah, very, very just cool, relaxed, like my muscles aren't. Like I really notice my shoulders like not in the position I desired them to be, but in like the position that just feels like they are.
They are. Yeah. It's lovely. Okay. So very gently invite your awareness back to this present moment. You can reorient with just a little bit of movement by looking around the room. Welcome back.
Thanks. It's weird to be floating on water and then to come out.
I know. That's why we do it gently.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think what I would like to do is just take a moment before I kind of give my reflections about what happened, with just a moment for you to kind of reflect and debrief on what do you feel like happened and how did you experience that as the receiver of that interview and that deepening process into that moment.
Yeah, I think what stands out to me is that with every like jump backwards in time, it like the meaning almost like shifts in like a compassionate way, and like it makes more sense. So like what started out this morning is like a jump only into like the nighttime, and then a jump into the sessions, and then a jump into the sessions then orients my sleep and reorients my breath, and then made more sense of how I felt annoyed, but then my annoyance shifted because I was connected to the past influence, and then it just like allows my system to get what it wanted, which was just that breath of like and it's so fascinating to me, like the amount of strategies I was probably going to try throughout the day to release,
including maybe going to Jimmy John's.
Yeah, well, going to Jimmy John's, coffee, rolling it out on a foam roller, like all good things. But I think they would have like missed the deeper meaning.
I am curious if you can sense, is there any particular piece of your awareness or experience that felt like the strongest invitation to your body to settle into that posture of release?
I think when we talked about the hunger, and I went here, that like being pulled by the gut was like, yeah, that like feels good, but then like it's like after you eat, you just want to like, you just want to be like satisfied.
Yes. Yeah.
And so like that movement, there's something about like the fact that my stomach was grumbling in the present moment that allowed me to be like, oh, and then just like drop into it.
Yeah. And I agree, like that was the moment that kind of stood out to me as well, of the embodied communication of, you know, us coming to your system and saying, what's this about? And literally your stomach starts grumbling audibly. I don't know if you guys could hear it, but we certainly could.
Yeah, like a little chuckle.
And I was like, little, right, and it did it sort of 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
And then when you reflected on the experience, that came back to you pretty quickly of, oh, and with that awareness of the grumbly, you had the embodied sensation of being led, and that what your shoulders were craving was actually a hunger for something.
Yeah, which is crazy. Like, it's not just, my body didn't need to just adjust. It needed to go through like the movement of like belly up, back, and then
yes, this unfolding process of having that hunger satiated, which, and this is me moving into story, but we do that at the end. We integrate into story, not at all. So we're going to swing over into the left hemisphere for a second, and the hypothesis that I would have in that is you offered the meal of connection to your clients, and so they experienced satiation, but you left those sessions hungry, hungry for that same offering of deep connection and witnessing. And then by giving your system time to really come back to that whole experience for you with a compassionate witness, in that moment with you, your system got that same offering of what it was hungry for, and we get that relaxation.
Like my gut goes from like that to, oh, you could map my whole life on like just that
cycle that you go through.
Like, and like the fractal of the last 12 hours and how that relates to probably the deeper, like those deeper engravings down here are just like a part of this like little one up here.
That's right. And how much your general nervous system template, based on conversations we've had, utilizes relationship with food and satiation to make sense of a lot of experience and to manage a lot of experience. It is a method of regulation for your system that feels very reliable to you.
It's my break time. Sorry, I've got to eat lunch.
That's right. I am off duty right now. Jimmy Jones is calling me.
Not satiating you.
That's right. That's right. It's my turn. Right. Oh, my turn. That we could drop into that real easily. For maybe
the
for
eyes
both of
are
us.
kind of getting watery.
I feel that. So I think what I want to highlight this as far as that concept of time traveling with the body. The way that I experience this kind of encounter is that we take this moment in time, which the initial evocation of an experience was maybe 30 seconds to a minute, 2 minutes tops. It was this very short amount of time, and yet we've spent the rest of this conversation slowly unfolding the layers of that. To me, it feels like when somebody hands you a piece of paper that has been folded into a tiny square, and at first you just see what's on the surface of that tiny square. But then we sit with that moment and we unfold and unfold and unfold until we have this huge bit of a map of our experience, and what is able to be digested and then integrated is vast in comparison to what I was working with initially. And it produces this sensation of much deeper and more thorough digestion and integration, which as the recipient of that feels really lovely. Like it literally feels good in our body.
Yeah.
In the same way that a well-digested meal feels really good and satisfying and nourishing and surprising. There's always kind of this element of surprise about an experience like this of, oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, there were like many moments of like, oh, interesting. Didn't know it that way.
That was there. That was connected. Like, no wonder I was holding so much. And I particularly love this example because it's such a somatic and embodied example of you had an experience that produced a somatic sensation and reaction, and we deepen into that whole process for you to unfold it so that you can make sense of it in a more thorough way. And I also really like it because the meaning spontaneously emerges. There's no guesswork. There's, not the invasion of the left hemisphere saying, oh, I think I know what's happening here. It's a very gentle invitation for meaning to come from the bottom up.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
Me too.
It's like a common metaphor we use in SIP is like the transparencies, and like black plus, or like red with a blue transparency turns into purple, but then like, oh my God, we discovered there was like a yellow.
Yeah.
And now we have a whole different color. And,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then what happens if we peel them back one at a time and look at them each individually and then bring them all back together?
Yeah.
And whoa, that's a totally different
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Now we can float back to my whole life.
Yeah, no, seriously, like we can, and that's why I said at the beginning, this is kind of an infinite unfolding, which I think is such a good example of therapy. It is the infinite unfolding of taking these little bits of information that we have and opening them up and deepening into these micro experiences that we have, because that's where all of that subconscious patterning and everything that we hold from our past is actually held. We can't hold all of that in our conscious, logical mind, so instead we store it here. And so if we want to work with that material, this provides us a way to navigate into that material and at the same time offer release. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
I think
we
so
just
too.
time travel.
I know.
It's crazy.
I know. Welcome back.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me go along.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching and listening to this, and we hope that it was both fun and informative. I'm anticipating questions and curiosities around how to learn how to do this, and the answer is watch this video.
The answer is complicated.
Yeah, the answer is complicated. So I have intentions of kind of writing up and sharing a version of this. But more than anything, when we enter into this space of curiosity with clients, it's always about just ask the next question. Keep deepening in. And what we're deepening into is not the story. We're deepening into the state. And the short version of how to do that is by asking how questions. So you'll notice that I didn't ask any why questions, like why was banished, no why questions, because that immediately moves us into story. So how and what questions, and being careful with the what, because that can accidentally move into story. How questions are things like, how do you sense that? How does that emerge? How is your body showing you that? So if you want to stay with the state, how questions are a good shortcut to help us stay right there. What questions are things like, what is emerging? But in that, a client could be tempted to move into story. So
in
clarify.
What way?
Yes. In what way do you sense that, right? What emerges now? But for me, we can almost always ask a question as a how if we think about it for a second, and it will help the client stay on top of the state and not accidentally move into a more left hemisphere explanation of what they're experiencing. So that's a very short explanation of how to do this, and we'll be sharing more on the how to how.
That's why we have this channel.
It is.
Yeah.
And there's infinite ways of exploring this, and so we'll have more examples and demos, and we're hoping that kind of getting a peek behind the curtain will help you be creative in your space with your clients. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.